case of the missing Arizona park ranger. On January 13, 1980, Ranger Paul Fugate disappeared from what should have been a routine hike in Arizona's Chiricahua National Monument. Fugate was a complicated figure, a dedicated naturalist who also clashed with his superiors, to the point where he had previously sued the national government. Paul, who was last seen heading out to do a trail check around 2 p.m., never returned. His girlfriend alerted authorities, who undertook a search for Fugate. They first assumed that he had been the victim of an accident and was injured or stranded in the backcountry. However, as the investigation continued and no trace was found, suspicions began to simmer. One park volunteer came forward to say that he'd seen Fugate in a truck with two strange men, leading some to wonder if Fugate had been kidnapped. Was he the victim of drug traffickers, who had only just begun to move into the region in 1980? Perhaps Fugate had inadvertently stumbled across them or had even been in on a deal gone wrong. Or, as some proposed to the chagrin of Fugate's loved ones, he may have simply ditched his old life. Whatever the truth, no trace of Paul Fugate has ever been found since that day in 1980. The famously creepy case of the Great Sand Dunes. At first glance, you might not think that Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve is all that strange. It's unusual certainly, given that the park contains the tallest sand dunes in North America, with some rising well over 700 feet tall. But stay a little longer, and you may start to understand why some people call it downright eerie. It is said that the region encompassing the national park is even sometimes called the Bermuda Triangle of the West for the weird lights often spotted in the sky. There's even a nearby attraction and campground known as the UFO Watchtower, where many gather to look for evidence of extraterrestrial visitors. There are reports of weird, web-footed wild horses that reportedly gallop across the dunes, while there are also multiple tales of explorers, ranchers, and entire families that have been swallowed up by the shifting sands. The sand itself can even sing, says the National Park Service, as avalanches of it slide down the dunes. It's a pretty well-documented natural phenomena, but one that could definitely creep out unaware visitors. A hotel in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park may be haunted. Within Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, there is a series of hotel buildings collectively known as Volcano House. According to the National Park Service, the original building, long since replaced, was built in 1846. And, given that sort of history, it's no wonder that some claim that Volcano House is full of spirits. Some guests have seen the ghost of an elderly woman roaming the property, most often inside the halls and even in rooms occupied by visitors. But standard ghosts are overshadowed by stories of Pele, the native Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes and fire. Given that she's housed close by in the active volcanic caldera, many at Volcano House take her pretty seriously. Hotel proprietors often seek to appease Pele, giving her offerings of gin. Sometimes, they also return lava rocks taken from the park by tourists, which are said to carry a curse for the unwary folks who originally collected them. Many mail the rocks back, hoping that an apology will be enough to lift Pele's curse from their lives. Paula Weldon went missing on a walk in 1946 Vermont. Paula Weldon seemingly only wanted to go on a hike. As a student at Vermont's Bennington College, she was surely familiar with the nearby wilds of the Green Mountain National Forest to the east of her college town. Weldon set off for the trail on December 1, 1946, telling her roommate, "I'm off for a long walk." Dressed in relatively light clothing, she apparently hitchhiked to the trail. Local Louis Knapp gave a ride to a young woman matching Weldon's description. He dropped her off near the trail. The last known person to see her, a watchman named Ernie Whitman, warned her about going into the cold landscape. Once it became clear that Weldon had gone into the forest but hadn't left, a search was organized, but it was to no avail. Weldon was actually one of 6 people who were reported missing near Bennington from 1945 to 1950. Their still unsolved disappearances helped to earn the nickname of the Bennington Triangle for the area. Creepy sightings at Mount Shasta. Located in California state's Shasta Trinity National Forest, Mount Shasta has been the focus of eerie tales and spirituality for decades. These include legends of a hidden city within the mountain, Bigfoot sightings, and, of course, UFOs spotted near the mountain. A hidden city is said to house inhabitants of the sunken continent of Lemuria, cousin to a similarly mythological waterlogged city, Atlantis. Their new city, Talos, is supposedly within Mount Shasta itself. Some visitors and locals have reported seeing the tall, robed Lemurians wandering about, sometimes paying businesses with gold nuggets, as the Lemurians are rumored to have done in the 1940s. If semi-human, mountain-dwelling inhabitants of Mount Shasta weren't creepy enough, there's always Bigfoot. Members of the local Modoc tribe maintain that the Mattacagni, or Eepers of the woods, live on and near the mountain. Others swear that Shasta is really home to lizard people, while just about everyone has a strange UFO story to tell, too. Creepy occurrences at Yosemite's Tenaya Canyon. Legend says that an Awanaki chief, Tenaya, cursed what's now his namesake canyon in Yosemite National Park after American forces violently tried to take his tribe to a reservation. Now, the intense landscape of this canyon has seen multiple disappearances and close calls that make some wonder if the curse is real. Even John Muir, the Scottish naturalist and father of the U.S. National Park System, almost met his end in the canyon. During Muir's exploration of the canyon in the 1870s, he stated, "I could not remember what made me fall," he wrote in an 1873 letter, "but I saw that if I had rolled a little further, I might have fallen to the bottom." Not everyone has been so lucky as Muir, given that the accidental deaths and many accidents in the area have led some to call it the Bermuda Triangle of Yosemite. Some of those misfortunes can be attributed to the steep sides of the canyon, poor preparation on hikers' parts, and the often unforgiving and remote backcountry of Yosemite. Disappearance in Death Valley. In 1996, 4 German tourists drove into the backcountry of Death Valley National Park and never came out again. The group included Egbert Rimkus, his son George Weber, Egbert's girlfriend Cornelia Meyer, and her son Max Meyer. They were last seen driving a rented minivan in the park in July, when temperatures soared to their sweltering peak. Months later, a ranger spotted their van abandoned far from any roads, with no signs of the group. For 13 years, the van and a few other spare details were all that remained. Then, off-duty search and rescue personnel Tom Mahood and Les Walker made a huge discovery. The 2 men were retracing the tourists' last route. They found a swath of new evidence, including skeletal human remains associated with some of Cornelia's personal effects. But there are still some serious mysteries associated with this case. Where are the remains of the rest of the group? A renewed search found little else. There's still much that's unknown about the group's motivations and ultimate fate in sweltering Death Valley. What happened to the people of Mesa Verde? Centuries ago, large numbers of American Indians lived in dramatic cliff dwellings at what's now Mesa Verde National Park in southern Colorado. But 20th century settlers found those dwellings long abandoned. So where did the people of Mesa Verde go? The Mesa Verde of the 13th century was an exceptional settlement. Some 25,000 people lived in the 1,800 miles around the modern-day park, building complex and prosperous villages in the region. Yet, by the last decades of the century, they were gone. In some sites, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of violence, while others appear to have been peacefully but suddenly abandoned. White settlers in the area eventually indulged in dramatic stories about how these people, whom they believed to be unrelated to the modern tribes in the region, had mysteriously vanished. Only, if you ask modern Pueblo people about this mystery, many will tell you that the people of Mesa Verde are their forebears. Historical accounts point out that the number of people who arrived in New Mexico's Tewa Basin in the 13th century lines up with the number who left the Mesa Verde region at the same time. Also, DNA evidence from turkeys indicates the same migration. But mysteries still remain. Why the move happened is still debated. Was it war? Drought? Famine? We still aren't sure.